Well, welcome everybody to the ToT-cast. I decided to take the reins for Chris Okrainetz today because he wants to watch the NBA Finals, which took 8 days. 8 days to get ready. It could have been a different night. They decided not to.
No, it actually took over 300 days to get ready.
That is actually true. But it decided to do it on the night we don't want to do our podcast. We got a couple of new features tonight. One of them is we're actually doing video. So we got Austin and Omar in studio here at the Centennial College Radio Studio. And this is Austin's debut on the podcast.
Yes.
So welcome, Austin.
Thanks,
and then we got Chris and Jake Skyping in because I told them they had to. They had no choice. So we got Jake over from the States. Chris, he's out in Mississauga.
Yeah, somewhere in Mississauga. Undisclosed location.
So we have some pity on Chris too for tonight. He's stuck in Mississauga tonight. So before we talk some Leafs, we got to get a little NBA Finals prediction from these two since they're probably at odds on who's going to win it. Chris, who do you have in this series?
Well, you do even have to ask Jake. Like, you see what he's wearing, right? You can see on the video.
Well, you never know. He may just be wearing it to troll. Because that is something that Jake would do.
Like, hopping on whoever's going to win the finals each year.
Yeah.
You, Jake? Warriors in 5. It'll probably go 6, but I'll take Warriors in 5.
Okay. Jake?
Warriors in 6.
Warriors in 6. Okay, so I've heard a lot of Warriors in 5 as well. Okay, guys, since we're not the biggest basketball guys, we're going to make our predictions anyways. Austin, who do you got?
I have Warriors in 5 as well.
Okay.
I'll be bold. I'll say a Warriors sweep.
Ooh,
Nice.
Okay. I'm going to say Warriors in 7 just because
Nice.
I don't like being the trendy guy. But we're actually going to get into some Leafs talk because that's what the podcast is for. We're going to talk some off-season stuff. We've got hasn't been a lot of chatter, but we got a couple things we have to sort out here. We also have some news that I wouldn't even call it breaking news, just some news about a couple of prospects and their status going into next season. So where do you guys want to start? Do you want to start with the prospects you want to just get that out of the way?
Sure. You want to touch on that? Or
Okay, well, we already know that 2 prospects weren't given contracts, so Steven Desrocher and Fabrice Herzog were both not given contracts. That means they become free agents. Jake is so sad about that. I could see the look on his face. He's just distraught. So what do we make of this? Do we make anything of it?
I mean, not really. I mean, the fact that these 3 or 2, I guess, if we're talking about that now, were released just means the Leaf system is really stacked.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I didn't see Desrocher making the Marlies next year, to be honest with you. He had a good year in Kingston, but I don't know if I'm just the only one, but I haven't really heard a lot about him since he went from Oshawa to Kingston. He was obviously somebody that was talked about a lot after he was drafted. He had that good Memorial Cup run for Oshawa, but haven't really heard much about him lately.
So the third player, by the way, was Nikita Korostelev, who will be re-entering the draft. So he's not a free agent, so he'll have a chance to get redrafted. Do we think he's actually going to get a substantial draft ranking? Jake, since you've watched the kid probably a little more than us, you think a team's going to take a flyer on him?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, he's obviously has a talent, but he kind of runs hot and cold. He's really inconsistent. He'll either look like a first-round pick one night, and then he'll look like he should be playing in the ECHL. I mean, to me, obviously there's a reason we didn't sign him because we didn't even think he'd be able to make the Marlies. So I can't see him getting drafted now. He's probably going back to the KHL.
And then we got, Herzog. The only thing notable we've seen him do is score an overtime winner against Canada, where he absolutely made, I think it was Chris Lee.
Goal.
He made him look like a KHL defenseman in some regard with that overtime goal. So, yeah, I think I'm on board with they're just not. I mean, these guys, if they haven't cracked the system by now, I mean, they were drafted. Yeah. A couple of them were drafted when the Leafs didn't really have prospects.
Yeah.
So for the fact that they didn't make the team during that time period, I don't think it's really bad news there.
Yeah, well, I think another thing just to add on before we move on is that the Leafs right now sit at 37 contracts out of 50, so they have 13 to go through expansion, the regular draft, whatever they want to do with free agency. So I think they're past the point where they can just hand out contracts to anyone. They kind of have to know who they're actually going to invest in and then put faith in those players instead of just handing out random people. Like Bill said, they're not really like high prospects or people we're gonna miss. The Leafs are already stacked on the wing, and they haven't done anything in junior and Herzog's been playing in Switzerland, so he played with Matthews for like 1 year. But besides that, probably like you said, Dave, scoring against Canada was probably the most notable thing he's done in the past couple of years. So them being gone, I think I'm impressed. Well, not really impressed, I guess. I guess I'm just happy that the Leafs are being smart with how they run their contracts now.
Mm-hmm. All right. The main reason I wanted these two guys here tonight before they go and watch some basketball, I have a little fun little segment we're gonna do. I'm gonna ask each of you guys 3 players that you want the Leafs to go after this summer. So I'll start with the 2 guys since they've been patiently waiting to get their airtime. Let's start with Chris because Chris has been a little quiet too. Chris, 3 players you want the Leafs to go after this summer. It doesn't have to be all UFAs. It can be anybody. 3 guys you think the Leafs should go after.
Free agent market's pretty bad, to be honest with you. I mean, there's not too many guys out there. A lot of it depends on who re-signs where. I know a popular name being thrown around a lot is Joe Thornton amongst people because they want a second-line center, which puts a lot of question marks around Bozak. But I'll go with like a low-end guy that I'd like to see him trade for first before I pass off to Jake here. But I'd love to see him go after a Brayden McNabb. I know everybody's talking about going after the Anaheim guys, and that's the easy selection here, or even Minnesota or Florida. But a guy like Brayden McNabb is a physical third-pairing guy, still pretty young, left-handed shot, but he does a lot of things well that could replace Roman Polak, and the cost to acquire him will probably be pretty cheap. So I know everybody's on the Minnesota, Florida, Anaheim guys, but that'd be another guy I'd definitely like keep an eye on here.
So we got Thornton, we got McNabb. You got a third?
Yeah, TJ Oshie, I mean, is the guy that stands out, but I think he'll go back to Washington. But if he was available, pencil him in the Toronto top 6, and he fits perfectly. He'd be like the premier guy. But again, I don't think a lot of these top-notch guys are going to hit the market, to be honest. I think they're going to re-up with who they're with and kind of make this a really shitty free agent class.
All right. So, Jake, moving on to you. Your 3 players.
Are we being realistic or?
I guess we have. I guess we can. You can pick one guy who's just unrealistic that you want, but let's make it realistic.
Okay. Realistically, I'd say Tom Wilson on the Washington Capitals. I mean, he's a restricted free agent. They're getting into a kind of a cap crunch. I thought he was all over the ice against the Leafs, and he was a big time player for them, and he proved that he can play up and down the lineup. I think he'd be a really good third line center, and he could definitely add some size to the lineup because it's really lacking outside of JVR. And number 2 would be probably Josh Manson. Again, he's probably very unlikely to go anywhere considering how good he played for the Ducks, but you never know. And the third guy would be Matt Dumba, another realistic guy. Because I think he was drafted the same year as Riley. There was talk that maybe the Leafs would take him during the draft. He's a right shot defenseman. He's young, and we have the cap space to pay him too. So I don't think the price would be too onerous either. But those would be the 3 guys for me.
Okay, now we're going to the room. Let's start with Omar. Omar, your 3 guys.
Okay, before I begin, Jake, don't hate me.
That's a good
Kyle Quincy. Say it.
Kyle Quincy. Do it.
No, I'm not going to say Kyle Quincy. A couple podcasts ago, Jake actually brought up a good point how he would have liked to see, or like in the future, to see the Leafs use their cap space a little bit more, considering the fact that they'll still have Lupul and Horton that they can put on LTIR and open more room, and then maybe take on a bad deal and then get something in return. So for my list, I kind of also looked at maybe players that can fit in, but also maybe someone that a team that we can kind of help out to get an asset. So in terms of UFAs, because I'm not really comfortable having Ben Smith as the 4th line center going into next year.
Nobody is.
Yeah, even though sure he was injured this season and stuff, but I'm not really for it. So in terms of UFAs, maybe if Nick Bonino wanted to come around, he made $1.9 million this year, and he obviously is a UFA. So, if you wanted to re-sign, obviously he's gonna want to ask for more. So maybe like a 2.2 or something like that. Maybe like a short-term deal. It could help to stabilize that 4th line. Another person, I think we were talking about this off air. I don't know who posted the picture, but Chicago and Vegas are talking about possibly leaving Trevor Van Riemsdyk free, and after if they did that, then the Golden Vegas Knights would have to take Marcus Kruger in a deal. So if that doesn't happen, we all know that Chicago's over the cap. Maybe the Leafs can help them out there. Even though he only had 17 points this year, you mostly start in the defensive zone. You can throw him on that fourth line center as well. And then finally, Jake, brace yourself. Mike Green.
Yes.
No.
Mike Green.
1 year rental.
1 year rental. He makes $6 million for this year, and that's it. He was playing on the second pairing. If you bring him in, we can have him on that third pairing, because if it's Dermott, if Borgman makes the team, if Calle Rosen makes the team, you want to have some sort of veteran stability on the bottom pairing. And sure, he's not the best defenseman around, but if you can just have him on that lineup, maybe Babcock can bring out the best of him, and then that could be something. And then one more person, also Jay Beagle.
By the way, Omar and Austin are at a bit of a disadvantage because they can't see Jake and Chris on the monitor like I can.
I can see the top.
And I gave a little chuckle when I saw Chris.
I felt Jake. I felt Jake's anger.
He felt it wasn't more of anger.
I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
If Matt Martin made 2.25, he gets 2.5 per season. Isn't Bonino going to get at least 4? There's already talk Brian Boyle's going to get higher than Martin at 3. So would that not mean Bonino's going to get 3.5, probably 4?
Yeah,
that's
some
true.
moron will pay him.
If he leaves Pittsburgh,
right.
he's getting more. But I think, and Jake talked about this, they have a really good chance to win 3 cups in a row. So why would you want to leave? It depends on what he
pay
wants.
him.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they can't pay him, but he may just want to stay for another cup.
But
what's the highest you pay a guy?
You can get twice as much going somewhere else.
That's true.
What are you guys comfortable paying a guy like that, like a Bonino?
3.5.
Yeah, 3.5, I think.
And
so who would you rather have, Brian Boyle or Nick Bonino?
Nick Bonino.
Yeah.
I would have Bonino just because he fits. I think his style of play kind of fits the Leafs more than Boyle. I mean, Boyle played well. I just think
Brian Boyle's 6'6" all the time.
He's good, but that's a lot, and for guys 31.
I agree, but we know how Babcock tends to fall in love with these guys. Like you guys have pointed out a lot.
Yeah.
Babcock,
that's
he likes
why
the
he's
player,
not
he will go to
GM.
war.
it happens.
Yeah.
All right, Austin, give me your 3 players.
All right. First guy I have isn't exactly a very exciting pick. Kyle Quincy. No. Matt Hunwick, I think, would be somebody the Leafs should look at. I mean, I wasn't exactly a huge fan of him on the third line as the season started, but, I mean, he did well for himself, and he wasn't completely useless going down the stretch and in the playoffs. So, I mean, if you're looking for a guy that could be a stopgap person and just fill in there for a year on the third pair, I think he's the guy that could do it.
Jake, don't say it yet. We'll get to that in a second. All right, second guy.
I can't see him, so I'm assuming he's.
Yeah, no, it's not. It wasn't. Jake was left speechless. I'll just say that much.
I mean, like you said, with the guys that Babcock's kind of tied to, he said on multiple occasions Hunwick's a good pro. He likes him. I can see it just for a year, and obviously, what was it, $1.5 million he was at, or even less that his contract was originally. So if you can get him for cheap and he doesn't completely blow it out there, I mean, why not bring him back for another year and just have him be the guy there?
All right, your other guys.
Another guy I had was Brendan Smith. I did like him. I thought maybe another cheap option. I'm mostly just going defense here because I don't see where you can fill in a guy besides a guy that can replace Boyle. I'd rather see the Leafs re-sign Boyle rather than look for an option on him because I think he fits that fourth line role perfectly. Brendan Smith I do like. I think he's a guy that can, again, fill in there. And another guy, my third guy that I know Jake's not going to enjoy because we've bantered about this, Cody Franzen.
He's already not liked your first two. And
yeah, I know.
I think he missed the chat. You weren't in the chat when Jake's basically criticized Brendan Smith.
I know, but we're talking about guys that can fill in. You're not going to hit a home run, unfortunately, and then there's not many guys that are going to step in and be a stud unless somebody really surprises. So you're just sort of looking for guys to fill the gap until your guys can come up next year.
And who's your third guy?
I put down Cody Franzen. Obviously, that's not a popular pick. For most, I said that Jake would not enjoy that pick. I don't need to see him to know he doesn't enjoy that pick.
Yep.
Well, Jake doesn't make the final decisions for the Leafs, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, just let's get slower on defense. Old cement feet.
Yeah,
Can you get slower than Roman Polak?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hard to get slower than
that
Roman
is
Polak.
getting slower. That's getting slower.
Fair enough. I don't know. If you're looking for right-handed
You know what would
shots.
be funny to watch Connor him go to like the Flames and have to turn around and catch McDavid. It would be like
That'd be
watching an old man with like those things with the two canes connected.
Nordic pulley.
Hey.
No, the thing that they
crutches.
push that's like has 4 legs.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, Jake, I mean, the Flames are going to need a right-handed shot defenseman when Dennis Wideman leaves. And then, I mean, Michael Stone is not guaranteed re-sign there. So it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to see Cody Franzen with the Flames. Especially.
Well, if we did, he would be a -20 if they ever played the Flames. Unless he's basically just sitting in his own blue line.
Which is also possible. All right. My 3, because, I mean, I want some fun. I hate
this free agent class, by the way. Like,
I mean,
I hated every one of those picks because it's just like.
Okay, well, and you went the free agent route. I'm doing more
Yeah.
of the trade route. My first pick is Jonas Brodin from the Minnesota Wild. I saw him at the World Championships. He was, I mean, Sweden had a stacked D core, and he was pretty good. He's shown he has some offensive capabilities. I mean, could you imagine seeing Nylander throwing him pucks at the point and he just rifling them? I mean, left-handed shot also makes it a little bit of a tougher decision on that part, which is why I'm going with one of Jake's picks is Matt Dumba. He's a right-handed shot guy. I think he has really good offensive stats. But he does need a new contract, so he's cheap for I think he's signed for this year and he needs a new contract this offseason. So, and he's also going to cost a lot. So that's why Brodin is the first choice. And then my final one is from Anaheim, and it's Josh Manson. I mean, Jake and I are kind of on the same page here. I like what Manson brings. I want a guy who has some grit, and I want a guy who can actually play in his own end. I like what Manson did in the playoffs for Anaheim. So those are my 3 guys. Now, second part of the segment, I haven't even told these guys what they have to do. So you got your 3 guys. So Lou Lamoriello comes to you. You're Mike Babcock. He says, I took into account the 3 guys. You can only choose one. I can only make the deal for one guy. Who is that one guy you want?
Okay, this is pretty unanimous. I think we should all say it at the exact same time.
Wait. So so with the way it works, I'm going to go back to each one of you, and you're going to tell me the one guy that you'd want the Leafs to choose from your 3 picks. All right, Chris? Who's the guy?
I think we can say it unanimously. It's so obvious.
All right, do you want to do
Chris
it on,
Russell.
do you want to do it on 3?
Okay, 3,
2,
1. Josh
Kyle
Manson.
Quincy.
That's because you're driving the Josh
We're all
Manson
thinking it.
fan club bus, dude.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm on the Kyle Quincy bus.
You're on the Kyle Quincy bus.
He's a good
No.
player.
Yeah, no.
I mean,
he'd make the
I
most
mean,
sense.
if we want to be like a Make-A-Wish Foundation like the Sabres are,
Mm.
then yeah, that'd be a good plan. Last I checked, we actually want to win something.
Okay, here, you can pick one. Manson or Dumba. Who you taking?
Manson.
Why?
Because he's just a better defender, like pure defender. We don't need more offensive guys. I mean, you got Gardner and Riley and Zaitsev who can all get 40 points offensively, and they're good skaters. Manson is just a really good skater, and he's a shutdown guy. We don't have one. I mean, Morgan Riley shouldn't be playing shutdown line minutes.
Yeah, to build off that point, like if you're watching Manson in the playoffs, he brings that physicality that a lot of people talk about the Leafs, the defense not having at all. And then before the only person who had that was Roman Polak, and it's pretty. I'll be really surprised if he comes back next year. So Manson will definitely bring up that shutdown defenseman that we need. And we actually have to stop going to all these offensive defensemen because there's too much. We have too many defensemen who want to hold the puck and make plays. And if you look at Morgan Riley, what Jake brought up, I think one of the reasons why he struggled so much this year is because he was playing a new role that he wasn't used to. We're used to Riley holding onto the puck, going jumping, joining the rush, skating around, holding onto it. But this year he was brought on the task of being a shutdown guy and actually not having the opportunity to make that many plays. So I think if you bring in more defensive-minded defensemen, then that leaves Riley the opportunity to actually play his game and play the way he wants to play.
All right, I'm keeping an eye on the clock in the radio room here. We got 4 minutes till tip-off,
We
boys?
got 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
Tip-off
Yeah,
is
pregame.
9:10. 9:10.
All right.
Tip-off.
Cool.
This is where the YouTube segment ends for the show.
All right.
So if you are watching this on YouTube, go to SoundCloud, go to iTunes, make sure you watch the rest of this podcast because we got a couple more things we want to get to. So just make sure you get to that.